G'day ladies and gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome to my third 20k subscribers choice video, and I hate you all. You had to do it, you had to vote these bloody things in. The worst aircraft in War Thunder, the Yak series jets. Now I'm going to get on this one fairly early, because I know there's going to be a large number of people that go, "Oh Mags, if you knew how to fly them, they're actually really good." No, they're shit. They are utter shit. As you can see, this is a jet aircraft that's wing break point is at 743 kilometers an hour. This means its wing break point is lower than almost any Era 4 propeller driven aircraft. Its level flight speed with full upgrades is really only about 600 kilometers an hour. Not only does this make it the slowest jet in War Thunder, but it means its level flight speed is not much faster than the very props that it's fighting. I'll talk about its acceleration in just a moment, but the big defense people will come up with is, "Oh, but Mags, it's really maneuverable for a jet," and you're quite right. For a jet, it is maneuverable. It is probably the most maneuverable jet aircraft in the game, which puts its overall maneuverability somewhere in the vicinity of an F7F, which is also one of the least maneuverable Era 4 propeller-driven fighters in the game. And this is before we even talk about its armament. It has two Shevak 20mm cannons with 60 rounds apiece. That is 120 rounds total. And as you can see, despite being in a very maneuverable jet, I was not able to maneuver and get guns on that F7F at any time. In fact, I'd say the F7F is probably more maneuverable. This Bearcat, however, this Bearcat's about to fuck me. So, I better give you a bit of an outline on exactly what the difference is between these two aircraft. The Bearcat 1B has a higher climb rate by over 1,000 feet a minute. It has a higher acceleration rate by nearly 3 times the acceleration in level flight. It rolls better, it turns better, it has heavier armaments with more ammunition, and it can maintain speed in a dive just as well as you can. But let's take this from the top and let's have a look at this plane from takeoff and initial acceleration down the runway, because this is something that I really skip on most aircraft because it's something that's not really worth showing. On this plane, you've got to see it to believe it. Just look at these props just disappearing down the end. Been on 100% throttle for a little while now. I've only just hit 100 kilometers an hour. That's 150 now. Still going. You know, this is a fairly long runway by War Thunder standards, and I can only hit 230 kilometers an hour, and I actually have to shoot onto the grass. Now, this plane won't actually lift off the ground at below 210, so even on a runway that is, well, it's long by War Thunder standards, this aircraft only just has enough power to be able to get itself off the ground. Now, we're going to play a little bit of the time compression game here at the moment, because I don't want to delete this. I want you to actually sort of see it, but I don't want to make you live through it. What I'm compressing now is the next 4.5 minutes of flight time. That 4.5 minutes is what it takes me to just hit 10,000 feet. Now, remember in my last 20k video I showed you the new Russian Premium Spitfire can hit almost 20,000 feet in 4 minutes from wheels up. Wait, that thing's got 150 octane fuel. That might be a really bad example to use, so I think I should probably come up with another one here. How about this aircraft has exactly the same climb rate as a Tu-2S with a 2-ton bomb load on board. That is to say that it has the same climb rate as a Russian medium bomber with its maximum bomb load. You'll also notice the speed I'm climbing at. That's because, well, this aircraft really struggles to actually maintain energy during a climb. Anything higher than about 6 degrees, and it actually drops speed until it hits about 265 kilometers an hour, and at about that point it'll actually float. The speed won't drop any further, but it's not going to accelerate. The only advantage I can think of this incredibly slow takeoff speed and this piss poor energy retention is, well, it makes it pretty much impossible for you to really rush into battle in a yak jet. You have to sit back and wait till other people actually engage in the fight first, because, well, you can't get to the fight faster than they can. Now, I did a little bit of time skipping in there as well, so we've now engaged in the fight for the first time, and I've already got 2 fighters zoned onto the back. Now, this is not because I'm a YouTuber and they're trying to hunt me down, although it could be, but you wouldn't know. Whenever you fly Yak 15, every prop in the game wants to shoot you down. Why do they want to shoot you down? Well, because you're not much faster than they are, you have less maneuverability, you're much easier to kill than just about any of the props that these props have to fight, And shooting you down immediately gets you an award for shooting a aircraft from an area above, which is worth quite a lot of credits and a good chunk of RP. So, hey, you've just made a target of yourself by flying this plane. So I've managed to fall into the tail of this F7F. It's one of the few prop fighters in this match that I'll be able to outmaneuver. And there we go, the first and only kill I'll be able to get this match. Why is that? Well, I'm down to 29 rounds of ammunition already. And you'll notice that the enemy team has rushed and is actually sitting very close to our runways, which means the chances of me being able to put this thing back on the ground for a repair and a rearm is non-existent. And this is probably the true weakness of the Yak-15. If I stop taking the piss out of its absolutely atrocious flight performance, which is absolutely atrocious, is its endurance in a fight. You could probably make this plane work a lot more effectively, but it only gets 60 rounds a gun, 120 rounds total, and Shvaks fire incredibly fast. They were known for their high fire rates. I mean, Japanese 20mm attached to Zeros, they have about half the fire rate, carry about the same amount of ammunition, but it's much easier to actually restrain the number of shots that you're releasing because of that slower fire rate. And even the Zeros have a couple of 30 caliber machine guns as backup. This thing, high fire rate, no backup weaponry, and it doesn't have the flight performance to back up its limited amount of ammunition. It's a shit aircraft. It's as simple as that. And just look at the swarm that is on my ass at the moment. Now, I have no ability to actually do anything about these guys, and these planes that are on my ass do have higher performance than I do. If I try and maneuver with them or try and get tricky, they will just kill me, and they're just going to follow me around. Now, the Yak jet is a jet, so it is still somewhat faster. Not by much, but it is faster than the props once you've got it wound up. And in fact, that's all I'm going to do for the rest of this battle. Most of my team is dead. We still have 2 fighters up, including myself, although I'm combat ineffective. I'm going to drag these guys out across our AAA, and then I'm going to turn back around and I'm going to fly back towards the 2 LA-9s that are still alive on my team. Now, those are actual good aircraft. Now, these guys are going to realise that they can't catch me, so they're going to turn around to engage the LA-9. But they don't know that I'm out of ammunition. They don't know that I'm not combat ineffective. So I'm going to spend the rest of this match going at any aircraft that looks like it's going to try and engage these LA-9s and just booming through. I have no capability of killing any of these remaining aircraft anymore. But I'm just going to continually boom them over and over and over again, constantly making them dodge out of the way, constantly making them turn onto me and try and chase down the Yak jet that's booming them, constantly making them panic and dodge, allowing these LA-9s to pull apart this entire enemy team, despite being outnumbered 2-1. I'm going to help win this battle for my team by bluffing the enemy to death. So, first pass back through the swarm, 2 fighters that were engaging the LA-9 that I was auto-squatted with immediately peeled off to engage me, giving him all the room he needed to use to turn around and re-engage safely. Out the other side of the fight, turn around and back into it I go. Next targets, we have an F8F on high. Now, I still have 29 rounds of ammunition here, and I've got a really good stall position, so I'm going to put a shot through and actually hit him. Now, I did put some damage on, and I did put a critical against his gear leg, which is, honestly, it's a useless crit. But what that really did just then, even though I've only got 8 rounds of ammunition left now, it just let them know that I still actually do have bullets in this plane. They don't know how many I have, but I'm still armed. Right now, the Bearcat will be telling the rest of his team that I still have bullets in my plane, so they are going to be far more wary about me booming through, which is perfect for me. Around we go again, and this time a Spitfire's having a go at one of our LA-9s, so what I'm going to do is try and close distance on him as fast as I can. I have 2 or 3 props still on my tail following me, but I'm keeping my speed as high as I can, so I'm not too worried about them catching me. Now, my plan is I'm going to go vertical directly underneath this Spitfire. I'm going to force him to try and dive on me to defend himself. He'll lose altitude. The LA-9 on my team will stay at altitude, and, well, there we go. We've just changed places. I'm going up, he's going down. Our LA-9 is now safe and can reposition to re-engage in the fight. Now, remember before when I was talking about energy retention on these aircraft? I'm sure you noticed the speed that I was doing before I went vertical and the speed I was doing after and the altitude that I gained. It basically cost me nearly 600 kilometers an hour to get 5,000 feet of altitude. That's how bad the energy retention in this plane is. But it worked for this tactic. The Spitfire's back low, he's moving around trying to re-engage, but he's lost the altitude advantage. So now our LA-9s are engaging from above, and in fact all of the enemy team is on the deck. So with an altitude advantage myself and the entire enemy team low, my goal now is to basically boom anyone who looks like he's going to try and climb up to altitude. So I'll make a pass via the Spitfire, he turns away, he doesn't know that I'm basically toothless at the moment, make a pass by the Bearcat, who immediately sees me coming and breaks off the tail of our LA-9 to go past me. I just zoom straight through. These guys are completely under control at the moment. It's just a matter of waiting for the LA-9s to put guns on them and finish them off. So, about 3 minutes later, and the enemy team is down to one remaining fighter, and I do get the time to land this aircraft. Now, there is one thing I do want to show you about this, and it's a little bug in this plane's damage model, in terms of braking it on short runways. Its wheel brakes are not very powerful, but you can stop it this way. The engine cowling on the aircraft is pretty much indestructible, providing you don't put it against the ground at a speed any much higher than about 250 kilometers an hour, so consider that your high-speed brake. So anyways, as I was saying before, we won this match by bluffing the enemy to death, and I managed to pull a second place out of this with 30,000 credits and 2,811 research points. Just cleaning up the fuselage repair, I actually skipped it to go through a couple of the other research points on the aircraft. Now, of course, this match wasn't particularly fast. This match was 20 minutes of me flying around booming aircraft with no ammunition to actually kill them, which is why I've cut this down a lot. This is what it's like flying the Yak-15, however. You're constantly starved for ammunition. If you happen to be in a match where the enemy team gets close enough to your runway, they completely render you obsolete. You'll get 1, maybe 2 kills, if you're lucky, if you're very good with your shots, and then that's it. You won't be able to land to get anything else. And the performance of the aircraft really is reflected by how common you actually see it. This is an Era 5 jet that is only battle rating 5.7, and these things are almost never seen. And this is why they're almost never seen. Even with the majority of the upgrades on the aircraft unlocked, this is still a piss-poor plane by any standard, and is easily outperformed by almost all of the current aircraft in Era 4. So, the Yak-15 is a crap aircraft, and the Yak-15P is actually worse. It's exactly the same plane, but it only has 1 gun and 60 rounds of ammunition, so I'm not going to bother showing you that one. But what about the Yak-17? Is it just as bad? Well, no, actually. Its acceleration is much higher. As you'll see here on takeoff, it gets off the ground at a much more reasonable rate. Its overall climb rate is better, its energy retention is higher, it carries about the same manoeuvrability as the Yak-15, but overall engine performance is much better. Unfortunately, it still has exactly the same 2 guns and exactly the same ammunition loadout, so that is still a problem. But, you could work with it. The biggest problem the Yak-17 has is its battle rating 6, which is still probably one of the lowest battle rating jets in the game. But that means it winds up in these battles often, where it's flying alongside MiG-9s at battle rating 7. Now, before anyone jumps on here, I am not suggesting that they down tier the Yaks at all. Just that this aircraft doesn't have the performance to, well, be able to perform at battle rating 7. It just can't. Well, at least it can't in a straight up fight. If you want to make this plane perform, what you've got to do is fly it as an opportunist. You've got to wait till the rest of your team is engaged, and then go through and spike, and take out your targets. Now, this is not exactly much different to how you should be flying the Yak-15. However, the increased engine performance on the Yak-17s means this aircraft is much more effective at running in this ambusher-interceptor role. Yak-17 should also still be primary targeting prop fighters, not jets. When you're in a battle rating 7 battle, you do not want your team's top jet dropping all of its energy to try and engage a damn prop fighter. You want it to keep its energy high and engage the enemy team's jets. So it should be your job to intercept and destroy these props and keep them out of your big jet's way. Let the big boys fight their fight. Your job is to make sure everybody else is out of their way. Now, that of course does leave you with the problem. What happens if your big jets fail? Well, unfortunately the Yak-17 is not an aircraft that is capable of carrying a match. It's a machine that is a pure support fighter. That's all it is really good at. You need either very good prop fighters on your team in order to lead through the match, or very good jets on your team. In the case of the Yak-17, it's more likely going to be jets you need. Unfortunately, the battle you're watching right now, I didn't have very good jet pilots. My MiG-9 pilots got pulled apart. Over the next 2 minutes, pretty much everybody on my team that is still alive is going to die, and I'm going to be left as the last fighter remaining. But anyways, this inability to carry that the Yak-17 suffers is for exactly the same reason that the Yak-15 suffers. It's the ammunition loadout. Only 120 rounds over 2 cannons. It just doesn't have the fight endurance to be able to stay in there. It needs a secondary weapon that it just doesn't have. Another problem that it seems to suffer from, and this is actually the Shavac cannons in general, is unreliability of damage. If I had been firing MG151s then, or Hispanos, that burst would have tore that Bearcat in half, but instead, it was only a hit and damage. The next time I do that same shot, however, with the Shavac cannons, it'll likely vaporise the entire aircraft. The damage levels on the Shavac cannons tend to be all over the place. Sometimes you'll go in and do massive amounts of damage, sometimes you'll go in and do basically nothing, and there seems to be no way to really predict exactly what sort of damage you're going to get. It doesn't really matter what ammunition belts you load, damage always seems to be unreliable. And the point's really here. I've been putting damage into this Bearcat over and over and over again over the last couple of minutes, and he's smoking and he's obviously RTB, but he's still alive. And I'm already down to 65 rounds of ammunition. I've spent almost half of my ammunition load and been unable to kill this one prop fighter. But I think I've got him in a position here where I'm going to be able to put him down, so closing distance as fast as I can, I'm going to fall in on his tail, wait for this allied team member to just get the hell out of my way. When I put in all the effort on this one, piss off, this guy's mine. There we go, light him on fire, nose up and exit out of the zone. Finally, I get a bloody kill. Unfortunately, most of my team's dead at this point. Now all that actually remains at this time is me and a MiG-9 late. There is another MiG-9 that it says is still alive, but he's actually on a runway, destroyed, unable to take off. The game just hasn't recorded him as actually being dead yet. Now, that dead MiG-9 is still in the match, but he's not saying anything in chat. So at this point I don't actually realise he's dead. I think he's down repairing, so I'm doing what I can to try and keep this F8F away from that runway so he has enough time to repair and get off the ground. Unfortunately, I misjudged the energy retention of the Bearcat here. He's able to go vertical and put shots straight across the belly of my aircraft. He destroys my right aileron and has done minor damage to the left wing and the fuselage, which has affected my lift and my overall manoeuvrability. Now at this point there's not much else I can do. I'm down to 51 rounds of ammunition, I clearly have a fuel leak, my engine is starting to overheat, I've taken severe damage to the aircraft, preventing and reducing my manoeuvrability, which is one of the few advantages this aircraft actually has. All I can really do at this point is point it at the ground, open up the throttle and try and get back to the runway and hope the Bearcat doesn't follow me. Now I'm still hoping the MiG-9 down on the runway is actually going to get up off the ground and keep going, but as you can see in the bottom right hand corner, the other MiG-9 just took damage as well. This is the point where I haven't actually realised it just yet, but I'm now the last man standing on my team. Now obviously this Bearcat is glued to my arse. The Spitfire was trying to follow as well, but he has broken off. I think he's going to sniff out the wreck of that MiG-9 that's on the runway at the moment. And I'm just doing what I can, trying to open the distance to my base. Still not realising that, well, being the last person left alive on my team, this Bearcat is never going to break off for any reason. I am the last possible kill that he can get. Now, it was about at this point that I started cluing on that that MiG-9 is actually dead as well. He's been on that runway for about 3 minutes now and hasn't moved, so if he wasn't dead, he's going to be in the next few seconds. And there it is in the bottom right hand corner. They're starting to critically damage the wreck that wasn't repairing on the runway anyway, so now I do know I am the last guy left. If I want to land and get a repair, then I need to take out this Bearcat. Otherwise he is just going to gun me down the second I pull back on the throttles to go in for landing. Thankfully he made it very easy for me, and you'll see chat in a few moments. This, kids, is why you don't be an arrogant cock in chat. I strongly suggest in the future that if you're going to call somebody a noob and then make a joke about mentally damaged people using Run Forrest Run from Forrest Gump in chat, it's probably a wise idea that you then don't lose a head-on in an F8 F1B cannon-armed Bearcat against a crippled Yak-17. Yeah, such a thing may make you look like a moron. Unfortunately, that was really the end of the battle for me. Trying to slow this thing down enough to actually put it on the ground was a bit of an issue, considering my engine has actually died at this point as well. Used the last of my cannon ammunition to try and pull it up. I'm just trying to bleed speed as much as I can here. Raise the flaps, that's all the speed I can lose there. I'm going to have to actually grind my wing against the ground. The Yak-17 is slightly different to the Yak-15 as it does have a nose wheel rather than being a tail dragger, which means you can't drive the engine cowling against the ground in order to slow it down. But I did manage to get enough traction down to actually stop the plane and start getting a repair. Unfortunately, that Spitfire that was following the Bearcat earlier on, after he went and got his crit out of the MiG-9 that was on the ground and realised that it wasn't getting back up, he turned back on and, well, yeah, he's only 5 kilometres out and I am a dead target sitting on the runway. I did actually manage to get the repair in and was desperately trying to take off. I just turned the plane off to the left to try and escape, but it's a Mark 24. There was no way known it was going to let me get off the ground. It is worth noting for the composition of this match, however, the enemy team only had a single P-80. That was it. That was the entire contribution of jets that they delivered into the battlefield. We had a MiG-9 late, a MiG-9, my Yak-17, and we still lost. Anyways, let's go through to the results. So, first place for the team with 2 kills. We've got Fighter Rescuer, Professional X2, Soft Landing, Final Blow, Terror of the Sky, and Bulletproof. 33,845 Silver Lions, and 2,477 research points. The enemy team was good this battle. Like, a bit arrogant, at least one of the Bearcat pilots was, but they were a very good team, and they basically kicked the shit out of us, and should have as a result. And that's the biggest problem with the Yak-Jet series. Both the Yak-15 and the Yak-17 have exactly the same problem. They don't have the ability to turn around a loss like that. They just do not have the capability of doing it. It doesn't matter how good a pilot you are, you cannot turn around a loss in these planes. They just lack the combat capability and the endurance in combat to be able to push a battle around. If your team doesn't fight well enough, you are going to lose. You will probably be the last man standing inside of a Yak-Jet if you're a good pilot, but you're still going to be the last man standing on a losing team, and there's not much you're going to be able to do to fix that. And this is why you don't see Yak-Jets in battle very often. It's not just that they're not the greatest jets floating around, but at this sort of battle rating, you've got the choice between the Yak-15, the Yak-17, or you can take the LA-9. Now, the LA-9's overall combat performance, it's superior to the Yak-Jets. It's a little bit slower in the long run, but it has higher acceleration, higher climb rates, better maneuverability, it's more heavily armed, it has vastly more ammunition, and it is a plane that can turn the tide of a battle if you are a good pilot. So why would you fly the Yak-Jets if you can fly the LA-9? Anyways, ladies and gents, click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.